Hello everyone, this is Raf, your online teacher. I'm very happy to be here today again to talk to you about languages. So, what are we going to do today? What I would like to talk about today is Japanese. As you can see by the title, we're going to study the basics of this language. I am an Orientalist myself, and I have lived in Japan for a few years for study purposes, but also for my job at that time. So let's begin with the Japanese language. So one first question that a lot of people ask is the following: is Japanese a difficult language to learn? Now, to cut it short, it really depends. It depends on a lot of different factors. And first of all, what your mother tongue is. So, why? Because there aren't really languages that resemble Japanese that much, I have to say. Yes, Chinese has some similarities, particularly in the writing system, because it's not always the same, but it's mainly similar depending on the characters. Some characters are actually the same, also depending on what part of China we're talking about. But you can't understand a Chinese person speaking, even if you're a native of Japanese, and vice versa. It's not really that any language in the planet resembles Japanese, but it's just that some languages maybe are similar as far as the grammatical structure is concerned, and so it might be easier for the speakers of those languages to pick up the Japanese structure. But apart from this, what really depends on is how much interested you are in the language. And what I mean by that is not just the language, not talking just about the communication skills, but also about the culture. If you are interested in the Japanese culture, if you like Japanese animes, for example, manga, video games, and but even history and samurais and all these things, then probably it will be easier for you to pick up the language. And why is that? It's simply because you have a passion, and when you and that's really how it works. And something is difficult when you really don't want to do it, but when you're motivated by a lot of different things, which I consider valid, all of them, even from a teaching point of view, then it will be easier for you. So, is it difficult? Yes, it's a difficult language, but still, it's not impossible. So, it's something that can be learned, and just like any other thing, and it requires a lot of method, but also, as it works with all languages, practice, daily practice. So let's start with the basics. We will begin, like any other lessons in any language lesson in this channel, it will be organized as the same way. We will begin with some expressions, because expressions are something that you use. It's something practical, so something applicable, something we can actually use in everyday conversation. And today we will begin with greetings. Then we will also talk about some grammatical structure, some basic grammar rules, and then we will have vocabulary, and then pronunciation tips. This is what we're going to do, these 4 different parts. So let's begin with the expressions for today. So let's begin with the greetings, so how we greet someone in Japanese. And when we talk about Japanese, we're talking about standard Japanese, which is called hyojungo, which means, again, standard language. And it's the language spoken in Tokyo, which I'm now mispronouncing. This is the city Tokyo, as we pronounce it in English, would normally be pronounced in Japanese as Tokyo. So there is no little u there. You don't really say Tokyo, but you simply say Tokyo. So the O is long, but not O. Okay, so Tokyo, the intonation goes up, rises. So what greetings do we have in the standard Japanese language? But still, these greetings will be very similar in the other areas, apart from certain differences, which we will cover in another video, where I will talk about dialects and regional variations. So, talking about the standard again, in Japanese, when you greet someone, it really depends on what time of the day, So, for example, in the morning, you will have one expression. In the afternoon, like in most languages anyways, you will have another expression, and in the evening the same. So, and also it will depend on the level of distance, social distance between you and the interlocutor, so the amount of respect that you want to show. And that's actually something that will influence language amazingly. We don't really find this much in English. We do have examples in French and Italian, with the lei form and tu form of Italian and vous in French and tu, but still in Japanese normally you have 4 different levels of social status that you will need to know. But this is something that we will cover later, just so you know that it's a language sprouting from a very complicated culture which is really based on social class and order. So, to begin with, how do we greet a person in the morning? In the morning you normally say, Ohayo gozaimasu. Ohayo gozaimasu. Ohayo gozaimasu. So to break it for the pronunciation is O-ha-yo. Ohayo. Please note the H is pronounced. Ohayo gozaimasu. Gozaimasu. Ohayo gozaimasu. Ohayo gozaimasu. Ohayo gozaimasu. Please repeat after me. Ohayo gozaimasu. Now this means good morning. Literally, gozaimasu means there is. It's a very formal way of saying there is. And o is the honorific, means honorable. Hayo can be translated as early, like early in the morning. So there is an honorable morning, could be a good translation for it, but it still means good morning anyways. So, ohayo gozaimasu. It's quite formal. In a friend situation, you would normally skip the gozaimasu part and simply say, ohayo, ohayo. So now let's move to the next word, which is hello. Hello in Japan. You don't really have a good afternoon, but you can use hello instead. And that, although you can use hello in every time of the day. So hello is konnichiwa, konnichiwa. So let's break it for the pronunciation. Ko-ni-chi-wa, konnichiwa, konnichiwa, konnichiwa. So this is a way to say hello. But it's both formal and informal at the same time. So you can use it in any situation. And it means hello, but you only use it when you arrive, just like hello. So it doesn't translate goodbye. It's not like the Italian ciao, which can translate both hello and goodbye. That's not the case. It's similar to English from this point of view. So when you arrive, you can say konnichiwa to a friend or even a person you don't really know that well. Now let's move to good evening. Good evening in Japanese is konbanwa, konbanwa. So let's break it for pronunciation. Ko, n, ba, n, wa. Konbanwa, konbanwa. So when we arrive and it's evening time, we simply use konbanwa, which means this evening. That's what it means, this evening. And it may sound strange as a translation, but again, sometimes even in English, you don't always say good evening, sometimes you can just say evening. So that's the idea. And again, then we have good night. Good night will be oyasumi nasai, oyasumi nasai, oyasumi nasai. So let's break it for pronunciation. O-ya-su-mi na-sa-i. Now please note that the U in Japanese is a very closed sound, closer perhaps to German or French, so you have this U sound, okay? So you say su, su, su. You don't say su, you say su. Oyasumi nasai, oyasumi nasai. Now the pronunciation of this